Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld, where our journey around the Great Lake continues, and we are approaching today the northwest point, which I believe marks the furthest point in our journey from the base, and indeed our spawn point, meaning that this should be when the biters are at their worst. This should be the most challenging area and the place with sort of the densest and the largest biter bases. So let's see how that goes. We've sort of got a big gap in the rails here that we ended up creating last episode, because I'm trying to fit it around the landscape as nicely as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect up the two sections we currently have, trying to get the positioning right so it all lines up and I don't have to do many things in the way of corners. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Making use of the bots for all the diagonal bits, though I do have to be careful around forests, because if I give them too many trees to chop down at once, they'll end up not doing it and getting stuck, and then everything grinds to a halt. So I believe we've lined up things correctly. We're doing this last stretch, and then we're going to go to the end of the line, bring the train along at some point, and start dealing with some more of the biters. We'll start heading due north to the point. The interesting thing about it is that this is where I made it's sort of a turning point in the first journey that I made, where I made a big decision of how to continue the journey, well, or not to indeed. Because I ran out of materials, I ran out of ammo, and I was extremely low on destroyer bots, and it looked like I wasn't going to make it. I had to decide whether I should try turning back, seeing how that went. It would be a very long journey, but it would be relatively safe, or I could try building a base. Very dangerous, but if I managed to get a foothold, then I'd be able to get some supplies and things like that, and then I'd be alright in the long run. Or my final option was to just run, hope that I had enough destroyer drones left to protect me as I ran, with the help of some exoskeleton legs, the final leg of the journey, and made it back home. And in the end, I decided to run, and I did make it, surprisingly enough. The biters also seemed to give up and not follow me, which is interesting. We're still yet to see whether they're just hanging around waiting at the other end, or like the place that they were last seen, whether they settled bases or whether they just disappeared or returned home or whatever. Anyway, we're back into our dealing with biters phase. The rails have made it to this sort of sheer wall of lakes. It's not a wall, it's a lake, but you know what I mean. It's like suddenly we're going due north. And at the time, this was very disheartening, because I felt sure that we were about to start going down to the south, and we would be soon on our way back home. And then all of a sudden, it seems like things are getting so much worse at ridiculous rates. But it's just beyond this point that things start going like directly south, and pretty much directly towards the base. So all of a sudden, the lake just sort of disappears, and we're good. And that point will be on the final stretch. We can connect the train up to somewhere on the line. I don't know whether we'll just bring it into like Iron Outpost 2 or something, or whether we'll like have a proper lake railway that goes past our base on the inside. I'm not really fully decided on how to do that. We'll work it out when we get there. But it's very close now. We're very nearly there, but our supplies are dwindling rapidly. We have something like 2 stacks of destroyer drones left, and less than 10 stacks of rails, and it is not enough. It is not enough to get us all the way around. At this point, it's just a case of seeing how far we can get before we have to turn back and resupply, or indeed attempt to run through and see how that goes. Though we'll probably not go for that, because the mega train makes that a bit difficult. We'd have to leave it behind or something, or build a base. Building a base is always an option. That is partly what the mega train is built for. It's entirely possible that we will build something up here, considering how far away we are from anywhere else. And it's feeling more and more like the midpoint was not actually the midpoint, considering how long this journey has been so far. But anyway, we're continuing with the biters. We've cleared a bunch of them away. We're sort of rushing through, dealing with all the big bases first to make the best use of our rapidly reducing bot supplies. Saying that at the moment, I've got a bunch of them flying around not doing anything. But we've sort of finished this round of dealing with the biters, and we're gathering up the spoils of war. There's a couple of little bases, though, that are on the way back home that we haven't properly dealt with. So on my way back, I make use of a couple of bots to clean up things over there. Once we get back to the rails, we can continue setting up the railway, have it coming north, You can see there's this one apparently 2-spawner base down there. I realised when I arrived that it isn't actually a 2-spawner base. It's the 2 remaining spawners of a much larger base that I was trying to deal with, meaning that it has a disproportionately large number of spitters handy that are quite angry with me. Also, I keep attracting the attention of some bases that are still in position as I'm trying to gather up the alien artifacts from their neighbours. Trying to deal with the individual behemoth biters, even with a couple of bots handy, is still difficult. The only way really is to have the full 80 handy. Anyway, we'll make use of our robots to gather up some of the old artifacts, and these are some of the last artifacts that we will find from our previous trip around, because once I started running, I wasn't dealing with any biter bases anymore. I just left them to continue. So there'll probably be more biter bases to deal with, but they will also all pretty much be old ones, meaning that the behemoth biters and spitters will only come along if I give them a chance to spawn. But that is a bit of a problem that I'm finding with some of the biter base attacks that I'm doing in this particular episode. I've now dealt with that little base there, a couple of spitters, but it was fairly easy to deal with, and I had a couple of bots on hand. I don't think there were any big biters. There might have been one, but well, not big biters, behemoth biters. The big biters are no threat to us anymore. We're past that sort of thing now. But now we're trying to work out how we're going to position these rails in amongst all these little bits of ponds and stuff, and trying to work out the nicest way to set it all up as we turn to the north. But yes, one thing that I'm finding with some of the biter battles out here is that with the old bases, you have to be quick. You have to hit them at full speed and not lose momentum, otherwise they become as deadly as a newer base. Because as soon as you arrive, your bots start destroying everything. Speaking of which, I just managed to blow up the station there with my shotgun. Got it replaced by some bots though, so that's fine. But yes, you as soon as you run in, your bots start blowing up all the biters and stuff, and that means that there's spawn space. Once some of the biters are killed, there is room for more to spawn, and the ones that will spawn will be behemoths. So you very quickly find the table's turning if you hang around too long. You have to keep the pressure on, and if you lose momentum, then the biters start to gain momentum, and the longer you wait and try and deal with the biters rather than the base, the harder it gets to deal with. Anyway, we're now connecting up these lines. So I've realised that I can actually move it in a little bit closer and still have it line up nicely, so I'm just sort of working out how to do it. And I deployed the construction bots to get rid of some rails. I keep forgetting that I can get them to deconstruct rails as well. I'm just using them to place the diagonal ones and occasionally gather up artifacts, which I didn't even know they could do until I started this journey. It was extremely useful to bring this along and made it a lot easier to deal with all the previously left artifacts. Saying that, I do sometimes feel like it's not actually any quicker to do it, though it may still be easier because I don't have to do awkward manoeuvring around trying to position myself exactly over all the artifacts, because the old artifacts don't get picked up within the same range as the new ones. The way that they change the system means that the old artifacts still are as difficult to pick up as they previously were, whereas the new ones, they have a longer pickup range, and they also get picked up automatically without having to hold down F. Anyway, we're once again placing some rails here in the forest. It is a bit dangerous well, not dangerous, but it is a bit risky with trying to keep the bots working. They can just freeze, and I believe they do that at some point in this episode, and I have to fix it by clearing away some of the trees. I do wish that they'd pay more attention to sort of what jobs need doing before other jobs and things like that. And I always thought that they did that anyway, but apparently not. I mean, they always know to empty a chest before it's deconstructed. There we go, that's the point. So all 10 of them, or 8 of them, or whatever it is, are waiting for trees to be destroyed by others, which will never come. So I just break 1 or 2, and that sets the chain off of them all fixing each other's problems again. Anyway, I've accidentally stumbled upon more biters. I didn't realise how much progress I'd made until I started seeing these bases right here. So we're switching back to attack mode, wearing the more powerful power suit. I believe the first attack that I did in this particular episode, I forgot to put that on, and it becomes very clear very quickly when I run into a battle with the weaker power suit. Partially because I'm running faster, and I noticed that quickly, but partially, well, mostly because my shields suddenly just die. You sort of get an idea of how much damage to expect from a particular base and from particular actions in a base, so you can sort of keep yourself in a position where you won't be in too much trouble. But when you're wearing different shields, that very quickly sort of collapses your idea of how to do it. Anyway, we got a little bit overwhelmed with this particular attack, and I believe the reason is... Oh no, I thought the reason might be that I'd run out of destroyer drones. That does happen, but it doesn't quite happen yet. But we do run out of the current stack that we're holding shortly. Anyway, this particular base here, we used some poison capsules to deal with the worms. You can see there was a very big group of worms in the middle of it, and I did not want to run into the middle of that and have them all shooting at me and my bots at the same time. So we quickly darted in, deployed a couple of poison capsules and left it at that. That is usually the best way to do it. And you can see this is one of those, the old bases where for a moment I stop, I sort of double back to make sure I deal with all the bases, and then suddenly there's behemoths everywhere, and it becomes a little bit more hairy. Because initially you're just running through and demolishing everything, but if you stop demolishing everything, then suddenly it becomes a lot more difficult to deal with them. Anyway, I'm wasting time now by grabbing all the artifacts while I've still got close to 100 bots deployed, which are the sort of numbers I'm going for nowadays. I'm usually trying to keep it around 95 to 105, and that basically allows me to run through any old base without any trouble. And the larger bases can always be won with a bit of a fight, and of course the newer ones. But I think at this point we were pretty much out of the area where I was dealing with any bases. I think at this point I was just running and hoping it would all go well, dealing with the chasing bites and things like that. I believe this is the point though where I ran out of destroyer drones. I ran into the middle of the base. I think I had like 60 bots on me, or maybe a few less, and I decided to deploy them up to 100 because I felt like I needed 100 for that one. And then halfway through deploying them, I ran out and found that I didn't really have enough to deal with the base. I did what damage I could, so I didn't just waste the remaining bots entirely. But we're going to have to make our way back to the Mega Train and grab the stack that we have left there. Now, there's only one stack left. Also, as we're grabbing the alien artifacts on our way back, we find out that our inventory is once again full, both of artifact and wood from all the random trees that we end up gathering as we try and clear away artifacts or just get through the forest sometimes. Though usually I'm using the shotgun. I keep alternating randomly in a sort of nonsensical way. But what we need to do, because I don't want to go all the way back to the Mega Train, I'm going to build the A station and have the train come to us. Then we can unload the artifacts that we've gathered and resupply on the necessary materials. I've found it awfully convenient on this particular journey to use the logistics trash slots, because even though there's no actual, they can't be used for their purpose out here, it's just so convenient to be able to dump 10 stacks of whatever into some sort of extra sort of backpack when you run out of space. Because usually when that happens, you have to deploy a chest so that you can dump some stuff in it, and then you have a bit of room to maneuver things around and sort things out. But here you can just quickly stick them in the trash slots and worry about them later on when it's more important. Anyway, we've extended the rails pretty much up to where the biters start again, and of course you don't want to be dealing with them while we don't have any destroyer capsules handy. I'm just sort of working out how to position the rails in future. There's some very sort of marshy area coming up, and I'm working out how to sort of maneuver between the various ponds. Conveniently, there is a sort of straight line that goes through. I think it will require a corner in it, but we'll work that out when we get there. But I'm going to set up the station, but instead of setting it up right on the end of the rails, I decide to set it up a little bit further back because we don't want to be dealing with having the Mega Train within sight of some biter bases. That will probably not go well for us. So we plonk down the station and then we have to wait. The train is quite a way back. We left it a bit too long, really. And I do start to worry that it's not coming back, but it does, of course, turn up in the end. And we can grab the remaining stack of destroyer drones. We also grabbed the remaining 2 stacks of shotgun shells because we were almost out of those as well. I didn't even realise that. I do keep forgetting that I need to resupply on the shotgun shells as well, but we've now used up not only what we had on us of those, but also the 10 stacks that the Mega Train brought with us. So we really have sort of burned through things, and we've sort of gauged it well how many magazines or whatever you want to call them for shotguns, well, how many shotgun shells and how many destroyer drones we need, and how many rails we need. They're all sort of running out at the same time. We've got our last rails in our inventory as well. Anyway, we're now back up to being able to deal with all these large bases. So we finish off that one that we ended up having to trouble with before, and we'll carry on through these ones here. And now we're getting, with every step, we're getting into more and more familiar territory. You can see there's a couple of bits of artifacts around, but they're on the fringes of bases that have been there since I was last there. They just got blown up by me as I was running past, pretty much. So there's not that much to actually gather. But the territory gets more and more familiar as we go on. This is where we were in the last episode of the War for the Lake, which, in hindsight, I should have called the Battle for the Lake, because this is the War for the Lake, but the name is taken, so I've not actually called it that. I've not really given it any proper name, but that is what it is. It is the war, and we're winning. And that is thanks to supply lines. They are extremely important when it comes to war, and I think I've demonstrated this well with the Mega Train. Thanks to having this giant train handy that's fully supplied with all the stuff I need, I've been able to make the same journey, but against much more powerful foes, and with a sort of much more permanent effect. Not just with the dealing of the bases, but also building a rail line, and indeed a midpoint base somewhere around halfway along, or probably before it. Now, this particular area that we're coming up to, I remember, because I had to use my emergency power suit. I think I'd done that the odd time before, but I remember that one particularly because it was in that sort of dire time of hopelessness. The thing is, I don't have that luxury now. At the time, I could switch to the lighter power suit when the larger power suit was failing, and be all right, and I could get out of the battle safely. I could probably win it with the suddenly fully charged shields of the other power suit. This is the particular offending base. I think these two were the ones that pushed me back into the trees. Back then, the trees were a lot harder to maneuver through as well. So being pushed into the woods was a much more dangerous occurrence. But yes, I ended up backed up against the trees and quickly switched power suits just as the other one was failing, and made it out to live. But I can't do that anymore. If this power suit fails, I die. The only thing between me and death is my own health, though it is bolstered by the armor value of the power suit at least. In fact, thinking about it, one of these power suits will have... in fact, both of these power suits will have been the ones that I took on that original journey. I never even considered that. So I was even switching between the two power suits that I carry to this day to keep me alive. And unfortunately, their sort of ability to work together doesn't work so well anymore. And there I go, running away from the biters after biting off a bit more than I could chew. At this point, it's mainly for revenge. I'm far away enough from where I'm building the rail line that I don't need to worry about it, but this is a particular area where I was trying to build a base. You can see there's an iron deposit and a copper, a coal deposit. I don't know if there was copper anywhere nearby, but I was just trying to build anything, get some production going so that I could make some basic ammo at least, and see where I could go with that. And the bases were just not letting it happen. They were too close. There was too much, and I didn't have the destroyer drones left really to deal with them without seriously jeopardizing my life in the future. So yes, I had a bit of a go around those, dealing with them, and now we're going to go back over to the train. And I believe we are out of destroyer drones. We have, I think, 10 stacks left, but I'm keeping those in reserve because it's a long journey back home, and all sorts of trouble could befall us on the way back. We want to have a little bit of backup handy. We also have some shotgun shells left, so it's not as dire as it was last time. But it is interesting that despite the vastly different levels of preparation and so many different things between this journey and the previous one, more weaponry on either side really, it's still come to me running out of steam at this particular point. This turn, just before we start making our way back towards the main base, I've had to come to a halt and make the decision. And this time I've decided I'm going to go back. We're just using up the remainder of the rails now, and then we're done. There's a couple more bits of alien artifacts. I'm going to try and grab all of it before we go, so that we can have our inventory and the cargo wagons empty and stuff. Seeing as we've ended up with so many bits of artifacts and wooden things that we've had to add an extra cargo wagon to fit it all. I could have put it in the rail storing cargo wagon and stuff like that, but I didn't want to be messing about with the filters and stuff, so I just made a new one. It'll be quick to sort out when we get back. But there we go, we've run out of rails. And the only thing left now is to go home, get the train ready. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the station. I'm going to move it to the end of this line over here, set it up as A so that we can have the train run automatically back, hopefully with us on board. I hope nothing goes wrong with that, and resume our journey. But we're now going to make our way back to the midpoint base. We'll just pack up the wood and the artifacts and things like that, hop on board, and we'll be off towards Arg Station that I left there back when I set off. And hopefully it won't be too long before we return to the railhead again, and finally complete our journey and then move on to newer things, newer bases. But anyway, I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.